Here. Brian Peruta.
Here.
John Ungary. Joseph Albert. Roby Staples. Donna Corbin-Sabinsky.
Here.
Joseph Perello. And Frank.
No.
Sorry. Frank Alimo.
Okay. Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda is executive session. We have nothing tonight, Jim? No. Okay. Public participation. Issues of concern not on the agenda. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to address the commission? Come on forward. Good evening.
Good evening, Gretchen Pfeiffer Hall, 4 Summers Road, Enfield.
Karen LaPlante, 166 North Maple Street in Enfield.
Well, we're here to ask a question of the commission. The Enfield Conservation Commission reviewed planning and zoning file for a public hearing on property on 80 Simon Road, public hearing number 2760. And the Conservation Commission reviewed this new subdivision and submitted comments and a recommendation to the Planning and Zoning for this proposed subdivision and open space donation to the town of Enfield. We forwarded the letter to the planning office and received comment back after staff reviewed it, which informed us that there were no wetlands on the subject parcel.
We rely on the GIS.
We relied on the inland wetlands map for part of our comments, and our comments were to not accept the open space, but rather a fee in lieu of open space. It was, they're proposing a 3/4 acre parcel be donated to the town, which abuts a 3 acre parcel, which is basically pretty well landlocked. And it was the commission's review, or determination upon review, that really did not serve the best interests of the town of Enfield to accept this small piece of property, that we would be better served by accepting a fee in lieu of open space instead, so that we could continue to purchase more desirable properties that would continue the greenway areas that the town has been working on. And so, although we've been told that there are no wetlands on this parcel, that doesn't really change our recommendation. But we seem to have stirred up a bit of a hornet's nest over this recommendation, and upon review of the inland wetlands regulations, we're wondering why inland wetlands did not review this subdivision proposal application in light of the regulation section 7.2 paragraph A that says all subdivision applications shall be required to go before the agency for determination of permit need. And so we're concerned that proper procedures are followed. So we put that question forth to you and ask you to review that.
Do you have anything to add, Karen?
No,
Okay.
that's pretty much it.
I know
Thanks.
Jim we're going to address that later in your agent's report, so we'll talk about that
Yes.
in a little bit.
I mean, your regulations say shall, and I think shall is a pretty strong word.
It was just, I'll be honest with you, Gretchen, it was just put on our desk this evening, so I don't know if any of us have even had a chance to review it yet, so we're going to speak under agent's report, get some more information, and then we'll definitely talk about it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to address the commission? No? Okay, and Frank Alamo, you noted?
Yes, I did.
Okay, welcome, Frank. Frank Alamo?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, public hearings, we have none scheduled. Correspondence. Okay, what do we have, Jim?
Okay, in your packets, you will find an updated Inland Wetlands and Watercourse Agency list of members with all the information. If everyone could just give it a quick look over and make sure it's right, and we make sure we can get a hold of everybody when we need to. Also, you will find all of the NOAs from the Enfield Planning and Zoning Commission from April 19th through July 5th. For your review. In addition to that, you will find a updated report that you requested. I think last meeting, you had asked me to speak with John Cabibbo about the status of the drainage issues that were presented to the town council some time ago. You will find his spreadsheet of those projects and where they are as far as funding and different phases. So, again, that's for your review. Next, we have a notice of tentative determination for stream channel encroachments. This is from DEEP. And it's basically, it talks about the rail boundary, I'm sorry, the old railroad boundary, New Haven, Hartford, Springfield corridor. There was some proposed work along that for maintenance, and I believe it is what this is addressing. Okay. Also, the Connecticut Federation of Lakes newsletter from March of 2012 is in here. And that's it for correspondence.
Okay. Okay, next on the agenda is commissioners' correspondence, or site visit updates. We'll go down, start with Roby. Do you have anything? No? Donna? Brian?
Town Farm Road, the farm, the ladies' farm out there. I think I sent, no, I don't think, I sent Jose, because I couldn't spell your last name. It's not that hard, Jim, sorry. Now I got it.
Thank you.
But there's some work going on the side of the road, and I was trying to figure out if it was part of the road project, and the plans I saw didn't have that on it.
Okay.
Then I thought, whatever lady is, June, whatever her name is doing some work on the farm, and I believe that's, looking at the GIS map, that's escarpments.
Okay.
I think there's some wetlands present. I didn't know if, Jose said he was going to get a hold of you and have you go out and take a look at it. I don't know if you had a chance.
Okay,
or not.
and I have some comments on that. We can do it now or at my report
Sure.
time? Okay.
Oh, we could do whatever you want.
The best I could tell, what you were referring to was
It's
some
next to the
clearing.
paper road on Nealance.
Paper Road, right. That property was known as the Mitchell Farm property, correct?
That's a June Mitchell. That's the
June
name
Mitchell.
I couldn't remember, yeah.
Okay. Back on June 4th, Matt Koppler, town manager, John Cabibbo, assistant town engineer, and myself met with Councilman Bosco out there to discuss, there's some dead and dying trees along the right-of-way between the road project and the Mitchell property, which I think is his property now.
Whose property?
Bosco's property.
Oh, really, Joe?
Yeah.
Okay. Good for him. All right.
And so the reason for the meeting was to talk about who owned the trees, because they were dead and dying. There was no question of that, and whether or not it was town responsibility or the homeowners, the landowner's responsibility to remove those trees. We took some measurements out there based on the center line, the boundaries, and it was clearly determined that it was not in the town right away, and that it belonged to the property owner, and that it would be his responsibility to remove them. And so he said he wanted to do that, and so we agreed he could take them down. They're his trees, and they were definitely in bad shape. when we left there, I did ask him that anything he disturbed in that area, that he, take precautions to disturb as little of an area as he could, and that he graded, seeded, and mulched any of the disturbed areas before he left as a result of his operations. So I think we're talking about the same spot,
Yeah, this, it was on the
kind of across
east
from the
side of
entrance to
that
the
road and across the street from,
That's correct.
yeah,
We're
right
on the
along the
same
project.
page.
I thought maybe it was a part of the project, and I didn't see that.
No, I don't think so.
I didn't know
That was-
Joey owned it either.
No.
All right.
And for me to follow up any more on that, I can, or
If you're saying it's good, but I saw on the map that there was an escarpment. Now, I didn't see a whole lot of escarpments when I drove by, but,
no, I didn't.
and it looked like there were,
Escarpments would have been further down around the corner, I think, where the Scantic cuts through, below that property.
actually, there were, our map may not be accurate, but it shows it going right through that piece of property. On
Up
our
front,
G-
next
on
to
our-
the road?
On our GIS, yeah.
Okay, I didn't see that, but I'll
Okay,
look into that.
all right.
Okay.
Nope, no, if you went out and you took a look at it, I'm feeling pretty good that it's all right.
We had quite the meeting out there.
Okay. Well, thank you for helping them figure it out. I was a little worried that that was a little sensitive area out there, but if it's not,
I will keep an eye on it.
all right.
Thank you.
Do we have the jurisdiction there because it's a farm?
Jurisdiction as far as,
Tell them what to do, asking them what to do.
Yeah.
that's a very, it's not an active farm. In order to be, if it had to do with the direct operations of farming, then there are some exceptions to the wetlands regulations, but nothing that we saw, nothing that was going on out there wouldn't meet that category. It's not a farming operation.
It's not a farm?
Not while he was, clearing those trees was not part of the farming. It wasn't necessary to the farming activity.
Well, it's either a farm or it isn't a farm.
That's not how the regulations.
That's not how the
define it,
regulations
yeah.
work.
Well, the house isn't a farm? I thought that is a farm, it's regulated as a farm.
That's very possible, but the activities, individual activities, would be judged based on their relationship to the farming activity. If we're talking about clearing additional pasture, to expand a pasture, an existing pasture.
Exactly.
Or trees to drain his property.
Trees that drain his property, we don't drain property anymore. Those days are long gone.
Well, a couple of years ago, we had a guy that was filling in the wetlands. We were filling in water, actually water, and
And-
going around it and putting barns up. And it would come under the farm project.
Okay.
No, I remember, because we had one down on Weymouth Road too, I think, and I can't remember what the guy's name was down there, but I remember with the last wetlands person, we were concerned he was clearing a lot of the trees, which he can clear the trees, he just couldn't take the stumps out of the ground. So, and he was creating a little more pasture land out there, so, but the regulations, we went through this whole thing on the regulations. There's some things you can talk about and some things we can't, so.
Right.
Yeah, there's a whole thing on the DEP site.
Okay.
Anything else, Brian?
Just a question on one of the things in the packet. I was just wondering how, Jim, when you gave us the drainage status,
Yep.
is this fairly recent, or is it? I thought I saw on here, one of the things that I was going to ask about, because I thought I saw it on here, and now that I'm looking for it, I can't find it. It was behind Kimberly Drive, where the water company was doing work. And that was one of our problems, and I thought I saw in here that, oh, here it is. Tributary, number 3 on the second page, on the third page, excuse me, where it says private. And we had allocated a bunch of money for that, but I think the water company work fixed a lot of that, didn't it? Weren't they filling in behind, I think it was number 5 or number 7 Kimberly? So that's why I was wondering how accurate this was, and then does that mean we freed up some money for some of the other projects which are in desperate need of money?
Right, and I think that the purpose of this list was to identify, at the time this was put together,
Yeah, yeah.
and then John was asked to put together all the areas in town that could use some attention as far as erosion problems. And with that, break it down into 2 categories, public and private. And as I understand that if and when the money was available, we would start at this list.
Right, right.
And work our way through doing the public ones first and the private ones second. And I would think that's one of the issues that came up with the water company is they knew they were on this list, and yes, it'd be great to do that. And if we had gotten through all these other projects
Could've got
and we had this
something
much
done.
money left over to do that project, then that's where we would be at that time.
So-
But
So
I think
maybe
they-
this comes off our list now then.
well, we could take this off the list then.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. I haven't gone out and seen the work.
No, I haven't either. I did get a letter saying that they were going forward and selecting a contractor. Of course, that was part of their requirements to keep me in the loop of what was going on. And so when they get a little further along, I'll be out there and see what's going on, and I'll report back to
I thought they were almost be done by now, but okay, cool.
No, I don't think so.
So, just to follow up on this, only if it says it's either in the design stage or bids out, or
Correct.
otherwise nothing's being done to it if
Yeah.
there's no note
Right, I think.
status. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Did it, Brian?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Jill?
Nothing, thank you.
Frank, you have anything? No. Okay. So my first item is Mr. Butler. I have the letter from March 30th, where he stated that late May 2012, he will notify the Wetlands Agency of the completion. Did we ever receive that? Because we haven't met since then.
We did.
Okay.
And I apologize, I don't have it in your packet. I visited him the week before the end of, I think we gave him to the end of June to complete the work. I'm sorry, the end of May, I think we gave him to the end.
Right.
I met with him the third week in May. He had everything completed, seeded. He provided me with the seed tags, showing what seeds he put down, the fertilizer tags. We talked about some ideas for different mulches to use. He did what was asked of him. And I went back in June, took some pictures, and things were growing. And I went back there beginning of the week, Monday, and no, sorry, Friday. I went there Friday and took some more pictures, but I haven't put them together in a nice presentation for you. But it is growing, it is stabilized. There might be a little invasive competition going on there from what he seeded to what was there already. It's definitely green, it's definitely covered.
So it's stabilized.
Yeah, stabilized, yeah.
Okay.
So hopefully the plants that he put in there, the erosion control species that we've selected will win the battle eventually. Let's hope because they are strong seeds and very aggressive, so.
Okay, that's good.
But they're not fast. They'll take a couple of years and then they'll start going pretty good.
Maybe at our next meeting, if you could just bring, I mean, you don't have to bring them for all of us, just so we can just take a look and
Yep.
see what it looks like.
And on that subject, I didn't know if we needed to put together some kind of a formal closure to that. I spoke with Jose a few times about this, and he kind of smiled and says, we never got to this point in one of these kind of situations. So how would you like to see this closed out?
Maybe just a letter, I mean, this is my suggestion, if anybody has anything different, maybe just a letter back to him for the file stating, with the pictures that you took,
Okay. Okay.
that, everything seems to be successful to this point.
Yeah, I could find plenty of violation letters in our records, but never one that said,
Right, right. I'm
good job.
Yeah.
So we'll work on creating that for the
Okay.
future.
Then so I had a question for Frank, do you have a badge? Have you?
No, I do not.
Okay, so maybe, Jim, you can tell him who he needs to talk to at the
Does he need
PD
a
or
badge? I think he has
you
a
know?
badge.
I have, yeah, not that badge.
the wetlands badge.
Yeah,
Get a
we'll
badge.
talk. Okay.
And you got yours, Donna? Okay, all set.
Okay.
So my other idea or thought is that project list. I didn't see, we were going to do an updated project list where all the agents are assigned.
Did we not have that last meeting? We handed that out last meeting.
Do I have one from last, just,
The minutes say that you're going to discuss it again once there's
oh,
more
okay,
members.
right. So, okay, so at this point, I'm sorry, you're right. We need to maybe talk about that later and assign them. Okay, we're good. Okay, that's all I have. Okay, next item on the agenda, approval of the minutes. Is there a motion? Minutes of April 17th.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of April 17th.
Motion made by Brian, seconded by Donna. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Can we, did you read the minutes? Or watch the tapes? Okay, then maybe we don't have enough to vote on this, enough members. So can we table these to the next meeting? Okay. All right, we're gonna have to table them to the next meeting. All right. Okay. You were here. No, he wasn't here. Did you read them? Okay. Okay, so then we're going to vote. All in favor? Okay. Opposed? Abstain. 2 abstentions. Okay. Next item on the agenda, Wetlands Agent Report. Jim?
Okay. Before we get into 80 Simon Road, I'd like to have you open up your manila folders, which were the late entries. And I apologize, there's a couple more correspondence in here. One being a technical memorandum about vernal pools put out by the Capital Regional Educational Council. It was done by Fuss and O'Neill, and it covers vernal pools in the Enfield area. So again, that's for your information. Also in this manila folder, you'll find a Excel spreadsheet that I've been keeping starting back in May 8th, 2012, all the way through today, 17th of July. And these are the building permit applications that I've approved for items such as sheds, decks, pools. So just give you a heads up of what's been going on in town as far as these small, small applications that come in for the, some decks and small additions. With each of these, I do check the GIS mapping. I do some drive-bys if I think it's a area that could, be of concern. Pull some records from the street files if there is anything there. So I spent a little time on each one of these before I just click and say approve. But you can see, on any given day, there could be 8 of them. It seems like we had a real run on pool sheds and decks, so it's good.
I like this. Yeah, I think it just gives us an idea of what's coming through.
Okay. And then you'll see on May 18th was a AAA that we had approved for Mr. Kidder. That was the addition out at Wheeler Drive. So you'll see off to the right, I attached the permit number on that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Do we have a question?
Go ahead.
So
Yep.
these are administratively approved that don't have to come before us?
correct.
Thank you.
Jim, I know sometime back, we spent some time figuring out what was administrative and what wasn't. I see a lot of I think these where it says res ad, those are residential additions. How do you figure what guidelines do you use?
If they're within 100 feet of a wetland.
So as long as they're not within 100 feet, they're not coming in front of us. Do you approve any of these when they're close or over? Are there anything else you're looking at?
If I feel that they're in within 100 feet and it's, a lot of our mapping, as we discussed before, is in areas that are subdivisions that were built in the 50s. And so if you look at the aerial photographs, you go out and do a site visit and you have a guy with a pool on one side and a guy with a pool on the other side, and the guy in the middle says he likes the pool. And there's no water course behind it, there's no drainage areas. If it's all yard, back-to-back yards, then I feel comfortable approving it in those situations.
Okay. That's a good list.
And I'll keep that up. Okay, and then the last thing in your folders was a biannual post-construction wetland mitigation report pertaining to Post Office Road. This report was required by the Corps of Engineers permit for that project. You'll see there's a 11 by 17 sheet in the last of it. This was the mitigation area that was required to be planted by the contractor. as a wetland mitigation project. It was done early in the road construction, and so it's been inspected. I believe it's been inspected twice so far. 2010, 2012. And there's some pictures there. And so it's growing nicely, and everyone's happy with it. Corps of Engineers signed off on it. Yeah. So again, for your records.
They did a nice job.
Yeah, you did a good job.
That whole project is turned out to be a good project out there. These mitigation areas are really nice.
I'd also like to welcome Frank.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay. Okay. In front of your desk, you'll find a set of plans. There's 3 of them out there. If you folks could share, I'd appreciate it. This plan is sheet 2 of 3. The first sheet was just a survey map. Sheet 3 was just a detail map. These plans came in for ART review. I believe it was back in June. I don't have the exact date, but it was early June. So we met the applicant. This was for a 3-lot subdivision on 80 Simon Road. As with all the ARTs, all the different disciplines met with the applicant. And upon reviewing this plan, there was a note up here in the upper left-hand corner from Wentworth Civil Engineers to the surveyor stating that Wes Wentworth, soil scientist, visited the site and found no inland wetlands or watercourses as defined by Connecticut General Status on this site. So, looking at the map a little further, the soil mapping that was shown on this map shows an area of soil shown as 13, and the legend calls that a Walpole sandy loam. From my experience, I know that a 13 Walpole sandy loam is a poorly drained soil and would be classified as a wetland soil by definition. So at the ART meeting, I brought it to the attention of everyone there and the applicant and said, well, you have some discrepancies here. You've got a soil scientist saying there are no wetlands, but yet you have a section of soils mapped on your plan. And at that time, I believe it was Jose's recommendation that go out there and take a look, walk around, see what you see, let us know what you think. So I did that and took some auger samples with a hand auger, went down 30 inches, found nothing but brightly covered soils, sandy soils, no mucks, no deep organic materials, no chroma changes as far as the soils themselves. They're all brightly colored, definitely well-drained soils. So I reported that back to Jose. You'll see that in my memo dated July 11th, talking about as a result of the ART meeting, we went out there. I actually went out there on July 3rd with the applicant, walked the property, hand augered several samples, soil samples along the west and north boundary, and found no indications of wetland soils. Then it was brought to my attention that the Conservation Commission had written a letter not agreeing with that, and questioning whether I was qualified to go out there and do such a determination. And it felt like it was the best interest of everyone to have a third party go out. So we had David Askew from the North Central Conservation District, and he went out on Monday and walked the site with the applicant and myself, sampled several holes throughout the property, and found no indications of any wetland soils anywhere on the site. In addition to that, we went further to the north, further to the west onto the town-owned property, which is adjacent to this. We augured several holes throughout that area, and again, could not find any kind of Walpole soils or any kind of poorly drained soils. Nothing but very well-drained sandy soils. So the best we could tell, when we discussed this many times about the mapping is wrong. The soil survey are done at such a greater scale than just a small 3-acre piece, that when you try to put the two together, they don't match up right. They're just, I'm sure there's Walpole soils somewhere out there, but not anywhere near this subdivision. So that was a discrepancy that we tried to iron out, and then I went out there, to do that. And so my recommendation is there are no wetland soils. And as far as meeting a regulation that every application, every subdivision needs to come before this commission, I've never heard that interpretation. So if I'm wrong about that, then please let me know.
I'm sorry. Okay, thank you for that clarification. Does anybody have any questions for Jim before we get into the regulation part? Go ahead.
I have a question. Jim, when we see a statement like this from a soil scientist, I don't see it. I understand there's no seal on it, but shouldn't that qualify as a guide for us, where we have to avoid having to hire the town? Sounds like the town had to hire somebody after you went and determined.
That's right.
Is that common practice?
No, and the only reason
These people are the experts, I would
There
think.
actually is a seal. I mean, we don't have the
Yeah,
stamp.
I'm just looking at
Yeah.
his little
Right.
handwritten note up here. There's a seal on down here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So by his qualifications and responsibilities and ethics for him to write something like this,
and
should we
if there wasn't this line going through here that had the 13 on it and definitions here, then that would have been good enough for me, to be honest. Also, looking at the maps, I did look at the maps prior to this, and I did see the soils in that area. But again, until you actually see them, and if a soil scientist says they're not there, I had no reason to question that. But what I did
Exactly.
question is that he has conflicting information here, and that I thought that it needed to be addressed. Someone needed to.
And then
say-
you did your due diligence, and then
Correct.
Then we again hired somebody else.
And then
to go.
yes, correct.
Well,
Just seems like redundancy.
well, to protect us, if I can, you're not a soil scientist,
Not a
right?
soil
You don't have-
scientist.
Not yet, probably, I'm sure. One day you're going to go to school and you're going to grow up and be a good soil scientist. But that's just to protect us, I would think. And having someone like Dave Askew go out, who's done a lot of work for us and actually sat in your seat,
Yep.
that's pretty credible stuff, so.
Yeah.
How old are those maps that we're using to identify?
Actually, they're from the mid-'80s. Yep. Now, the maps, the newer maps, aren't going to be any more accurate.
Okay.
Again, it's a matter of scale. When
Excuse me.
when a soil scientist comes to a 3-acre site to do a wetlands delineation, he's able to cover a lot of ground and be very detailed on where that definition, where those soil breaks are, where the changes are. When those soil surveys were created, there was holes and testing done maybe once every quarter mile, once every half mile, maybe less than that. It was a very broad look. And then based on what they found in different areas, they delineated and interpolated that information to follow contours, to follow vegetation changes. So that's how those soils maps were created, based on a interpretation of what they found in some areas, and then projected that to similar areas. And again, I'm sure there's Walpole soils out there, wetland soils, but they're not on this subdivision, and they're not within 100 feet of any activity. And that I'm confident of.
I think you did a good job. I'm wondering if future development, if a developer has just looking at Enfield, looks at a site and uses our maps and just says, well, that's all wet. I'm not even going to pursue that project. Are we?
Not sure I could address that, but no subdivision would come in here without having a soil scientist say there is or is not.
But there's no deterrence on that for people to pursue.
I can't address that.
I would hope not.
I'd hope not to.
No, I don't think so, Frank. They've pursued some pretty aggressive projects around here. The Villages, South Road with one of the Trianos, and they've done some pretty good stuff out there and got pretty creative with some. And if you looked at that one that was out on South Road, you would have sat there and went, "You're not putting anything in there." But you know what? He did a really, really good job out
Good.
there. So, yeah.
We don't want a deterrent
No.
development.
Were you able to speak with the Conservation Committee and let them know what your findings were? And, I mean, the concerns were they were looking at old inland wetlands maps or ones that are still active, but we're working on revising those. So does it satisfy their needs to know that we're not encroaching on inland wetlands?
Yeah, I haven't had any conversations other than today with any members of the Conservation Commission.
So this
And-
letter did not go to them?
No, it
Okay.
came today. It's dated today. They will get that copy. And they're, whatever they decide to do for open space is definitely their call.
Because, I mean, the concerns are they're looking at what the maps say
Correct.
compared to opposing information. So as a community-based, I don't know, activist or group or something, they're concerned with the residents. So are we satisfying, making sure that they're understanding that we're not encroaching on inland wetlands by the new maps or new information?
Right. The maps, I don't know if they received all the maps to make the determination. I don't know what they received to make the determination. I wasn't in contact with them. I wasn't feeding the commission information, so I can't address what they got, so.
Do they have a chance to speak again, or?
It's not on our agenda. But it's not on our agenda that they come back. I don't know. I would like them to get a copy of this.
Absolutely.
So if you can send
Yep.
that to the Conservation Commission. I guess the next concern would be, as part of our regulations, which I don't have in front of me, do you have a copy? As to, do all subdivisions come in front of us? Can you read that out loud if you have that?
Well, I don't see it here, but here's what my issue is. Not whether there's wetlands or not, or how we went out and conducted the wetlands. It's that using as a guide, and even this map right here, and some delineation of wetlands, possibly, that just didn't come in front of us. This was handled more administratively. Now, decks, pools, fences, excellent, all that stuff. But when you start looking at something like a subdivision, and there's an indication, accurate or not, there's an indication, we ought to be having, as we've had in the past, one of the, I forget what they call it, but to determine whether a permit is actually needed. So I would expect this kind of stuff to come in front of us so we could ask the kind of questions that Conservation would ask, because we know them, and we would ask the same questions. Probably walk away with the same result, but as a matter of process, that's kind of my problem with all of this. It's that administratively, love the work you're doing here and whatever the list you had, but when we start talking about subdivision where there's potentially, I'd like to see, otherwise, why do you need us? I mean, you could pretty much go, hey, listen, I looked, it's good, they shouldn't even talk to you. But that's why we're here. So that's my problem with the whole thing. If there's an indication, even a thought that an inaccurate map says that there could potentially be wetlands out there, we ought to sit down and talk about it real quick, and it may be a quick conversation. But
And I guess my other thought on that, and I respect your concerns, is that there were no proposed activities within 100 feet of the wetland.
well, if this looks like a delineation, and if I'm looking over here, I put a ruler to it, it's got to be pretty damn. It's got to be
Well,
pretty
maybe,
close.
yeah, maybe in that corner, but
Yeah,
it's
so
still real close, yeah.
yeah, I got a ruler, we can pull it out, but
Yeah.
it-
I think I
we're-
did.
we're
I
that
think it's
close
100
and-
feet, so.
We're close enough here where we're putting in a subdivision and we should be talking about it. Again, if only for 15 or 20 minutes to go, you know what, you looked, we had asked you look, and we're all good. Thank you very
And
much for coming in.
and again, I respect that, but from the time we had the ART, which is what ART was, I believe, created for, was to get these kind of questions out to the applicant early on in the process. We received these plans, we had said there's no wetlands. Yeah, there's something. I went out there, looked at it. I felt comfortable there was no wetlands, so at that point is where, I guess I made the call not to bring it to an application.
Yeah, and only speaking for myself, I prefer that you didn't do that.
Okay.
We had this long conversation with the last wetlands agent here about what was administrative and what wasn't.
Okay.
The same thing with Jose and what is. It can get it can get a little dicey. I don't want to see you exposed. I don't want to see the town exposed for us not doing what we're supposed to be doing. And like I said, even if it's a 15-minute conversation, it doesn't cost anybody any money. At least I don't think it does. So that's just speaking me only.
Okay.
Talk to the rest of the guys and see what they think, so.
Any comments?
No, I agree with Brian. I think it should have come before us.
Okay.
At least we can talk about it and talk to the people, ask questions. Have time to review it ahead of time, instead of having it just handed to us.
Frank? Jill?
No, I agree. I mean, there's got to be some type of black and white line where we can decide what would be administrative and what would need to be reviewed. I know if anything ever got gray, I mean, what's the gray line or not, but there needs to be some type of judgment call on what we're going to decide needs to come before us. Subdivision of, what is the subdivision? More than one house? Okay, so then we need to decide that would be something that would need to come in front of us.
It's in the regulations, just read them.
Which
None
we
of
don't.
you have them up there?
We have.
We just
have
got
a
this
copy right
tonight.
here. Well, we haven't had a chance to review it. This was put on our laps tonight. So, come on up, Gretchen.
Jim, while she's coming up, though, you did do a great job. Thank you.
Well, first of all, I think our letter was a little bit mischaracterized. We did not dispute Mr. Luzak's findings because we didn't know of his findings. What we were concerned about was that he's out there taking soil samples and he's not a soil scientist. And if this application had come before you as it should have, then I think that you would have had a report by the licensed soil scientist and would have answered your questions, so that the town wouldn't be spending money and wouldn't be spending staff time going out and doing what the applicant is supposed to do. Your regulations clearly spell out what the authorized agent may and may not do. It's in your regulations. I sat on this commission for 14 years. I was chair for 7, and I just find it very disturbing that your rules aren't being followed. As far as the map goes, I understand completely that it's a guideline. That's the only guideline that we have to use. That's what you have to use. And that's why the applications come before you, and a soil scientist has to go out there and field delineate wetlands.
And may I add,
And
they
our
did.
determination our recommendation to the town was not solely based on wetlands. I want to make that perfectly clear. Unfortunately, our letter is being mischaracterized. But I was involved with many times of these rules and regulations being revised, and we put the agent authorized section in there, and it spells out exactly, as Commissioner Peruta stated, what the authorized agent can and cannot do. And bypassing you, I mean, you were appointed to protect the town. That's your job. It's your job to tell your staff person what you do and don't want them to do, and these regulations are in place for a reason. So you guys are the first line of defense.
Absolutely. Do you have the regulation number? I wrote down 772A, and I'm looking in my regs, and
It's section 7.7, 7.2, paragraph A. It's on,
I'm looking in two different places. One is an update. Page 20?
page 16 is my copy, but
All right, well, that could be a problem. All right. I guess 7.5, all right.
maybe mine's old. Revised as of 2005.
All right, thank you. So maybe if it's helpful, because you are new, and I want to apologize a little bit, but we probably need to have the discussion again, and most of the folks here are new, so it would probably be helpful at some point as an agenda item, just, what is and what isn't, to start to draw the lines a little better, and that way, we don't ever have to have a conversation like this.
Okay. And just so that I'm clear, I truly respect the request and the regulation, as it's written, that all subdivisions should come before this commission, regardless if they have wetlands or not. Is that correct? Is that,
I think we need to put this as an agenda item, maybe. We
Yeah.
can discuss it further, because I would like to review them. I don't have them in front of me tonight. I didn't
And I'm
believe
looking for
I
them.
needed to
and
bring them in tonight, based on our agenda, so.
I do remember seeing them, but I'm having a hard time pulling them out of my
Let
book
us
here,
just
so.
maybe muddle it.
Okay.
Put it on the agenda.
Okay.
We can talk about
right?
it
And,
some further.
yeah, because the
further.
plans did come in with a letter from a soil scientist stating there's nothing there. My only reason to go out there was because there was a discrepancy that
Exactly.
Right,
that
right.
they didn't,
right.
maybe I was
You
looking
caught
at them
that.
too close. Okay.
No.
If I had just
You're
put all
doing
my
your
faith
job.
in this letter, I
Right.
don't know if we'd be in this discussion or not. Would we? I don't know.
Well,
Would you still want to see it? I mean, every application that comes in and they say, no, there's no wetlands there, I just say, hey, you're wrong.
If you're looking at the map, and
Okay.
this is just me, I'm not talking
Okay.
for these guys,
Okay.
because I couldn't. But if you're looking at the map and there's any bit of that green on there or escarpments, I would think that's a good idea to sit down and have a conversation with us.
Okay.
I mean, we have nothing else to go by other than that, accurate or not, and we know that how they can be and actually wetlands can move too, so. But that's just me.
For
so.
subdivisions, is that what you're talking about, or anybody in general?
I would think almost anybody in general, but
Because if you look at the map, I mean, just about everything in Enfield has wetlands on it, based on, I mean, it's
then-
crazy. It's
Then we should probably have the
subdivision, so-
conversation then and see
Right,
what
so
we want to
maybe
do.
we'll just noodle on it, let us go over the regulations, throw it on the agenda, we'll talk about it
Sounds good.
whenever our next meeting
I got
is.
2005, and
No.
I'm missing them.
Go ahead, Fred.
Just a question, when you were saying every subdivision or every project, even if it's not within 100 feet of a regulated area, it should come before us?
What we're gonna
No.
talk about, what's administrative, what's,
No, it shouldn't.
right, it should not.
not saying that.
Doesn't belong here.
I'm not saying that, but when you look at a map and it's got the green hanging over it, and it looks like it's within what's going to be land that we're going to, upland review, yeah, we ought to be looking at it. If the map is wrong, that's the time to figure it out.
So the map is 20 some odd years old.
And the one before that was another 20 years before that. I think 62 is when
So maybe we have to have a discussion on this agenda about
Jim
the
is
maps looking at
updating
it.
the map.
Yeah.
Good looking at it, further down on
We are getting the new map
We are getting
soon,
a
but
new
we
map.
don't
Okay.
want to rely on every community group or every resident to notice if there is an encroachment or something coming close to an inland wetlands
Right.
without us noticing
and
it.
what that-
They have to rely on us first.
Correct. And what we talked about before, that new map will still have areas like this that could, the scale and the projections are still going to be off. What that new map will reflect is that the state and the NRCS, the USDA, recognize that the areas that are subdivisions from the 50s and 60s and 40s are no longer on there as wetland soils. They may have been at one time. They're cleaned right off as being eudorphin soils, being disturbed soils, period.
I believe your map was revised in 2006. That's not 20 years old.
Yeah.
And
That-
you all should know that.
We're still going to spend money.
The map,
You know,
just
We
to,
rely on these people to tell the truth on these maps.
Right.
And they're soil scientists.
Right. That's
Correct.
the point I was making when we
There is
started the discussion, that if somebody's going
It
to
says
put their
there is
name to
none.
it and they have a license and a seal, I mean, that's,
right.
Well, that doesn't mean they got a license to steal.
no, a license and a seal, that this guy, not steal, that he's a soil scientist and he's visited the site and he doesn't see any
I
soils.
think he did the right job.
Right,
You know?
I do too. But,
I mean,
there's not any of us up here to have any more qualifications than the person who's put their signature on here.
other than being a soil scientist, he knew anyway. He knows what it is.
Right.
And Askew for sure knows what it is. We trust him. We trust his word.
I agree.
Yeah, it is. You're actually right, you guys. Oops. You're actually right. It's section 7.7.2, and it's paragraph A. So when you guys get a chance, take a read, and we can have this discussion at some
Sounds good.
point. As you're reading it here, it's page 16, as they were saying. I was looking at the wrong place.
And just to clarify, our existing map, our wetlands map we use currently was adopted in 2006, but as you'll read in the fine print, the information it was based on was from the Hartford County soil survey, which was completed in 81, I believe. I'm sorry, 62. I'm sorry, 62. And then there was some other additional information from USGS and DEP that was added onto that, and as a complication of those three. So, and we're hoping to update that again with the newest information from those sources.
That would be, are they still the same Hartford County sources or
Yeah,
new state?
Hartford
sources?
County was redone 96.
Well, before, we used to have David Askew here, or his assistant, anyway, at every meeting, right?
Any other discussion? Okay, so we're in agreement, we're going to add this to the agenda for a discussion item our next meeting. Give us some time to review it, okay? Next item on the agenda, bond release, we have nothing. Number 12, old business, none. 13, new business, none. 14, new applications to be received. Jim, what do we have here?
Okay, in your packet, you will find a new application to be received. I received this application as a determination of determination of permit need. I believe the applicant is here. You guys want to come on up? And I'll give you the overall view as soon as I find it. Oh. Okay. The Buckeye Pipeline Company. You guys are the representatives?
That's me.
Okay.
Can you just state your name and address for the record, please?
Mike Musumeci, 5 Dune Road, Enfield.
My name's Eric Runstrom. I'm from Rue Associates on behalf of Buckeye.
And what I did was I took this application as a determination of permit need because they came with a unique situation. These folks are in charge of keeping the maintenance of the petroleum pipeline from, I believe, New Haven to Springfield.
From New Haven to Ludlow.
To Ludlow,
Yes.
okay. And through their yearly inspections or bi-yearly?
This, it was a crack tool pig run. It's a computer that goes inside the pipeline.
What you do, how often do you do that?
Every 5 years.
Every 5 years, okay.
Every 5 years.
So as a result of their 5-year testing of the pipe, they found an anomaly in the pipe, which was located between Moody Road and Shaker Road. And so, of course, there's a need to go out there and investigate it further by digging up that and exposing the pipe to see if there's some kind of damage to it, and if there is, to repair it. So what I asked these folks to do was to provide an application for us to figure out if this needs a permit, submit a narrative on what they're going to do out there, provide some erosion control details located on a map. They took some pictures of the area, some plan views, and I'll hand it over to you folks, and any questions, these gentlemen are here to answer them for you.
You want to just give us a synopsis? I mean, we have your information here, but I know we have one new member that is only reading it tonight. If you want to just give us a synopsis, and then we can see if we have any questions.
Sure, I got synopsis of the dig, of what they're looking to do. So they're going to go out. This should be a 1 or, I guess, 2-day dig to determine whether or not the repair needs to be made. So they'll go out. The dig is, as you can see on the sheet, it's proposed at 20 feet by 10 feet, depth of 7 feet. What they need to do is get to the line and get a foot or so under the line so they can clear it out and make a determination whether or not a repair needs to be made. I've been out to the location, as you can see by the pictures. It's close to a wetland connection, which is wet this time of year. And so what we're proposing is to use a roadbox and some type of tongue and groove, or one or the other, or some combination of roadbox or tongue and groove shoring, which is actually spelled out in the this maintenance guidance document. But to prevent too much water from coming into the excavation, there still will be some water that would come in, and so that's why we're proposing a dewatering area, basically across the tracks, which is down gradient. of the tracks, the hydrologic wetland connection flows in that direction. But what we'll do is, install roadblocks or some type of shoring. Make a determination of whether or not the repair needs to be made. If the repair does need to be made, I think it's usually about a 5-day job. That's the information I
Yeah,
got.
by the time we make the repair, then you have to leave it for 1 day. Our inspector comes out, they have to x-ray and go through the whole, then it has to sit for 12 hours, and then the pipe can be recoated, backfilled, and have a nice day. That's about it.
And there is, what is in this pipe
It depends what day it is. It's
generally?
heating oil or diesel.
Okay.
Or if we're pumping up to Westover, there could be JP8 for the Air Force Base in there also.
What's that?
The jet fuel.
Thank you.
But, just want to emphasize, this is preventive maintenance.
Yes, we've had we're in the process in other areas in the state right now. We're actually in East Hartford doing some digs. And the stuff that we find is just surface, just a little bit of anomaly on the top, which would take, it depends on the thickness of the pipe. If it makes our thickness, we can sleeve, if we could just rewrap it. If it's too much gone, we will sleeve it for a temporary repair, then come back and cut that whole section right out and put a brand new section of pipe right in there. But we have to look at it first. We can't see. We're only based on what the little machine tells us.
And based on your application, we're talking about just a look and quick
Just a look,
repair.
that's all we're
Anything
doing.
more than that, as we discussed, would have to come back for more discussion and more details. But, until they dig it up and see what they can see, we don't know what that's going to entail.
You said you did other East Hartford, you mentioned. Is there a similar location that had a similar problem on the robot
this
that
is-
you've had to repair or seen up, once you've dug it up and seen what the problem is?
I'm not 100% sure of what this location, I don't have that paper with me, of where the anomaly is on this pipe. But from what we're doing right now, it's all surface underneath. It's just a little bit of water that got underneath the wrap that just started to make the pipe, it got rusty. And that's what the computer picked up as it went by. And we're sanding it down, refinishing it, and rewrapping the whole piece. And that's really about it. Some of the spots that we found were previous digs from other Smart Tool runs that were, once we opened it, it picked up the same spot, but there was no other progression to the pipe or damage to the pipe or anything. So that was just rewrapped again and just covered up and put right back to the same mortar it was.
Question, Joe Marie?
Go ahead, Frank.
How close are we to a regulated area on this?
They're right in. It's surrounded with. There's wetlands on both sides of the track. This is right along the old rail track, rail
EJ's
bed.
Railroad.
If I could,
It's showing.
if I may, and I shouldn't use my other hat, but I'm going to. And I've attended throughout my career several meetings that are put on by their company to advise local officials of that pipeline and what goes through there and the cruciality of it. And also what would happen if there's a rupture. And I don't have my notes in front of me, and it's been probably 1 or 2 years since I've sat in one of their presentations, but if there's a breach in that line and we find out, or somebody finds out, we tell them to shut it off in New Haven, we'll lose how many hundreds of thousands of gallons into our community?
You won't lose that much. We
Well,
have valves along the line.
But it'll be an environmental issue.
Oh,
If-
definitely.
if there's a break.
Yeah, that's why they do this work. And
The risk to this is huge if there should be some kind of break in that line, opposed to, them disturbing any wetlands. So for me, I would recommend that we allow them to make this repair, because there could be a catastrophic incident, waterways, Scannick River.
This is actually Freshwater Brook. This is the headwaters of Freshwater Brook.
And I know it hangs underneath the bridge there too, as
Water
well.
Street, yeah.
again, and I don't want this to go on a record as I'm saying in my official capacity with my other hat, but I am very familiar with that pipeline. It also is a crucial service to Homeland Security and the Air Force. Westover is the biggest fuel depot on the East Coast, I think, or one of the biggest, and the country depends on the JP4 or JP8 that's pumped up to there for the C5s. You know, the C5 operations come out of Westover, and they're a huge logistic operation to our men and women in the military. So if we should have an incident anywhere in the world and they can't flow jet fuel up to Westover because we have a break in Enfield, or we didn't allow them to fix their break, I don't think that's a good idea. So I think we just make sure that our wetland agents goes up there and they do everything they need to do to protect the area and get this thing fixed immediately. Thank you.
Just questions. So is that pipe active all the time?
Yes, it is.
So you're going to be out there digging around it, and there's going to be flow?
Yes.
Yes. Well, it depends how busy of a week we have also. If with the market, everything fluctuating and stuff, and the
Yeah.
price that everything is right now, we're running about three solid days during the week. Most of the time we are, right now, this time of the season, we're shut down. If it was the winter time, I'd say we'd be going 24/7 nonstop.
When do you plan to do this? You want to do this fairly quickly, right?
I believe that they were thinking September.
September.
Yeah.
Is it possible to, I got to tell you, well, I got two questions. How are you going to get the heavy equipment out here?
Right, so
So
the
you could-
access route that we're, proposing is using, the rail.
The train tracks?
Yeah, because.
Good job.
It's, they're abandoned.
Yeah, that's AJ
That's,
Bellevue's trucks.
I was hoping for that answer.
We're good with him. I'm good. We're all good with him, so.
Okay. And then, so you're digging around a pipe, you got some heavy equipment. Who's doing the work for you?
Henkels and McCoy is our provider. That they're all certified through Buckeye. They've gone through all our training, watched all our safety videos. They're welding. The whole crew is all.
Okay.
And we also have Janix, is the NDT company, which comes in and looks at the pipe and ultrasounds it and does all our work for us also. We don't do any of that work anymore. We have it all outsourced to other companies. And we also have an on-site inspector all the time at the job from that Buckeye hired that is there the whole day while these guys are working also. And he also, I'm there in the morning and in the evening just to tighten everything up if there's any other problems, to let the control center know or, what's going on.
Okay, because I'm going to tell you, I don't know anything about this, right? So this is kind of cool. Yeah, I think it is. But, so you're going to run some equipment out along the tracks. You're going to start digging. Is this like dig safe? You're marking up that whole area. Someone's
It's
coming
already,
through.
I think the one call's been put in already. I marked it out
Right.
myself a couple of weeks ago.
What kind of
We've already
precautions do
put
you
it
take
in.
against an accidental hit to the pipe?
Excuse me?
What kind of precautions do you take against any kind of accidental hit to the pipe? Is
Well,
there
they,
something you do special?
DOT regulations actually dictates that, you stay within, I believe it's a foot or 2 feet above. And then what they'll do is hand dig.
Hand dig it. That's
Everything
what I
is
was looking
hand
for.
dug.
Around the line. So that's actually DOT regulation.
Okay. Now, you said you're going to get water in this hole probably?
I would anticipate, we're anticipating water, and that's why we're proposing trench
Okay.
box or some kind of tongue and groove type shoring that, will prevent the majority of the water from coming in. It's not 100%. And so, they'll have some type of pump that will pump into.
And you're going to de-water across the tracks, right?
Water across the tracks into a filter fabric set in, hay bales or straw bales.
Oh, okay.
And the flow will be controlled, to make sure that none of the water gets above that, it
saw
all
that in
flows
here.
through the filter fabric. And we're also proposing, and this is standard, straw wattles around the excavation, just to control any extra, materials that,
Okay.
that could get out of the excavation area, preventing it from getting into the wetland.
All that soil you're taking out, where you putting it?
So we'll actually stockpile, this is just from my experiences. We'll stockpile next to the excavation within the wattles, so all
Oh, within.
work.
Okay, so we're
All work
protected.
will be within the wattles.
All right.
And I think what they're proposing actually in here is that they will stockpile on some type of poly, just to try to keep some type of separation.
That was one of my concerns. So now you got this big pile, but you're going to be within. Okay. Is that, Jim, is that pretty adequate for, I mean, in your opinion?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, these guys, came to me and I said, give us the best set of drawings you can. I understand the necessity to get this done quickly. We don't meet in August. Give us as much information as you can. Come and talk to us. I like what they presented here. However we decide to proceed, of course, I'll be involved. You'll contact me before you go out there. I'll want to see your ENS. I'll probably hang out there for a while and check it out and, just see what's going on and make sure that, everything is per your recommendations. And, yeah.
Sounds like you guys have got a pretty good project going on here. I don't,
in the idea of the trench box, one, for safety. Two is you can minimize how much, this is sandy material, this is going to be wet material. If you don't do it in a box, you're going to be digging, it's going to be falling in and digging, and you're going to create even more of a area within a box. You're going to dig in the box, so you only have to take the volume of that box out, and the box will hold up the sides to minimize the disturbance, minimize the amount of material. The water, you're still going to have the same amount of water, and you're going to pump that and treat it, pre-treat it through some kind of filtering. And
Filter fabric is what they use.
or a silt bag or dirt bag, they call
Dirt bag,
it.
yeah, also one of the options, yeah. Brand name, dirt bag.
It is, and that is a brand name, yes. Yeah. Or an approved equal.
Okay, just so we're clear, this is just for the preventative maintenance of the pipeline. So if you
correct.
had to do anything further, if your test revealed additional work needs to be done, you'd need to
come back.
in front of us. This is just for this part of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
No.
Well, would you fill the hole and everything back in to come back, or,
Oh, well,
I mean, what would they do in that? Because it
I
could
mean,
be a
are we
time delay.
considering the preventative maintenance, the actual repair,
Yeah.
or would that be something that we would
can't
have?
put-
I'm
do any
reading what
repair
you,
to it at all,
trenching to
or-
a depth of 7 feet and an area up to 20 feet in length by 10 feet in width to facilitate preventative maintenance of a petroleum pipeline. That's what's on your application.
And no, I'm just not clear, what I would consider the preventative maintenance would be the actual, if they do identify that a repair doesn't need to be made, that would be the preventative repair that they would make.
So this is the,
There would be no cutting or anything. It would be
Right.
just a sleeve that would be welded over the pipe itself. And then all x-rayed and, like I said, all tightened up and everything. There won't be,
Cutting of the pipe.
if you need a cutout, that won't happen. We would have to, that would be a total purge of the line. And that takes weeks to get that all going. So we would definitely have to probably come back.
So, yeah, that was my understanding, is if, they needed the cutout and it was
Right.
going to extend more than the proposed 5 days, that we would come back.
Right.
But, the idea is that, if we do have, they need to put a sleeve or to wrap, that they could do that under the approval that we could get
okay.
now.
That makes sense.
And the actual,
Yeah, that makes
it says on your application as well, the actual amount of course areas altered is .007.
I believe that's
Correct.
acres?
Yes.
Acres, yes.
We fill trianos on Moody Road, yeah. And then that's the last spot in Connecticut. Then we go up to Springfield and take care of a lot of tanks up there. F.L. Roberts, Belcher, Noonan. We do Hall-o-Muska in Broadbrook, the tanks there. Then Bradley. All the airport fuel goes to. Yeah, everything's done by buttons or valves. When the product gets at a certain point, I'm there watching, and you cut on gravity, color, or just a simple product change. That's it. And it goes to where you want it. You just put it here, put it there, and keep on sending other things down the line.
This is a very important line that runs through our neck of the woods, even for residential heating, and it's a huge line that does a lot.
Jim, any other comments?
No.
No, okay. Any discussion? So tonight, we're here to determine whether or not this needs a permit.
And I guess my comment would be, would it be, what kind of a permit? Could it be done administratively? Could it be handled, you want us to come back and discuss it again?
Right.
Be asking them all the same questions all over again, so I'm not sure what else we could tell you, and if Jim's watching it, I'm feeling pretty good about it, so.
Maybe just a consensus from the commission that this is handled administratively? Is there anybody not in favor of that? Okay,
Then,
we're all set.
okay. Then my,
Thank you.
Very much.
Thanks for answering the questions. I didn't realize they had a pipeline going through like that.
Next item on the agenda is other business. We're missing the A, but IWWA, official map update discussion.
no discussion.
No discussion. It's still where we were. That's good, which was better than where we've been for a long time.
I think
so-
the need is becoming more apparent, so I'll ramp up my efforts.
Okay. And then before we adjourn, I think we need to go over, which I'm not sure you have, Frank. These are the pending projects, and each commission member has been assigned kind of just an extra set of eyes to take a look at them as they're going on.
Is that the Excel
a
sheet,
long
the one you did?
Excel.
Is that the sheet that you provided us
Is
with?
that in there? He has that?
No, this is a sheet that was handed out back in April.
Okay. I don't have it.
date October 11th? That says like agency inspection assignments.
I believe I dated it March 20. Okay, that's it. So it was updated on October 11th, but I handed it out on March 28th. So that was the last time it was.
Yeah, so
Produced.
it's not in front of me tonight. Okay.
Yeah, and it's not. I don't have it myself. So
Okay.
So what's the assignment, Joe Marie?
There is no assignment at the moment. We were just going to go over what's outstanding. I'm not sure I have the latest, greatest copy in front of me. I know you were going to add something to it from I have to go through the meeting minutes. You were going to add one more thing to it. Maybe we'll discuss it at our next meeting unless anybody has something pressing they want to add to it tonight. No? Okay. Can we get this on the agenda so I don't forget to talk about it?
yes.
You want to call it the agency project list, maybe?
And as far as projects that are going on right now in Enfield, public works projects, we have 2 Road 2010 projects going. One over here on Thompsonville, the other over off of Weymouth, Standish, those streets over there. That's known as Section 4B. I believe this is 1
Church Street's going now.
Church Street, okay. Another contract has gone out for design. All of those don't have any wetlands permits associated with them.
Right, so we
So
don't need
there is
those.
no oversight. Town Farm Road is going on, and we discussed that tonight. So that's the only project there.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so we'll discuss that at our next meeting. Okay, next item on the agenda is adjournment. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting of July, sorry.
A motion made by Jill,
Donna seconded.
second by Donna. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned. Next meeting, September 4th.